You've told yourself the same thing 100 times. Tonight, I'm going to bed early. No phone, no late-night rabbit holes. Just a reasonable bedtime like a functioning adult. And then midnight rolls around and you're wide awake, not even particularly entertained, just unable to stop, unable to wind down, unable to make your brain cooperate with something as simple and fundamental as sleep. And the next morning you wake up exhausted, tell yourself it won't happen again, and repeat the whole cycle. Here's what most people think is happening. They think it's a discipline problem, a willpower problem, a you problem. It isn't. What's actually keeping you awake at night is a combination of biology, environment, and system design so precisely stacked against your ability to sleep early that blaming yourself for it is like blaming yourself for being hungry. This video is about what those forces actually are, because once you understand the mechanism, the behavior stops feeling like a personal failure and starts feeling like exactly what it is. A completely predictable response to an environment that was never built for your rest. Inside every human being is a biological clock, not a metaphor, an actual molecular timekeeping system called the circadian rhythm that runs on roughly a 24-hour cycle and governs when your body wants to be awake, when it wants to be asleep, when it releases hormones, when your core body temperature rises and falls, and when your brain is at peak cognitive function. And here's the part that changes everything. That clock is not set the same way in every person. The timing of your circadian rhythm, what researchers call your chronotype, is largely genetic. Studies on twins estimate that somewhere between 50 and 80% of your chronotype is inherited, which means whether you are naturally a morning person or a night person is not a lifestyle choice. It is biology. A large-scale genetic study published in Nature Communications analyzed the DNA of nearly 700,000 people and identified 351 genetic variants associated with being a morning or evening person. So when you try to go to sleep at 10 p.m. and find yourself lying there completely wired, it may have nothing to do with your habits. Your biology may simply not be ready. Your core body temperature hasn't dropped. Your melatonin hasn't kicked in. Your brain is still in its natural peak alertness window. You're not failing at sleep. You're fighting your own genome. For the vast majority of human history, when the sun went down, the world got dark. Your ancestors didn't need sleep hygiene advice. The darkness handled it. As light faded, the brain's pineal gland began releasing melatonin, the hormone that signals to every cell in your body that night has arrived and sleep should follow. It was automatic, reliable, biologically seamless. Then we invented artificial light, and then we put it in our pockets. Here's what actually happens when you look at your phone at night. The screens on modern devices emit light heavily weighted toward the blue end of the spectrum. Blue light wavelengths are the specific frequencies that the photoreceptors in your eyes are most sensitive to. In other words, your phone is convincing your brain it's still afternoon. Research from Harvard Medical School found that exposure to blue light in the evening suppresses melatonin production for roughly twice as long as green light exposure. Other studies have found that just 2 hours of screen exposure before bed can delay melatonin onset by up to 3 hours. You could put the phone down at 10 p.m. and your brain's sleep chemistry wouldn't normalize until 1 a.m. And this isn't just about phones. It's overhead lighting, televisions, laptops. You are not a person with a bad sleep habit. You are a biological organism whose sleep system is being actively disrupted by an environment it was never designed to handle. There's a phenomenon that researchers and psychologists have started paying serious attention to in the last few years. It's called revenge bedtime procrastination. The concept is straightforward. When people feel like they have no control over their time during the day, whether because of demanding jobs, caregiving responsibilities, or just the relentless structure of modern obligations, the late night hours become the only space that feels genuinely theirs. And the brain, even when it's exhausted, resists surrendering that space. It's not that you want to be awake. It's that sleep feels like the final surrender of the only autonomy you had all day. Researchers studying this pattern found it was significantly more common in people who reported low sense of control over their daytime schedule. The less ownership you feel over your waking hours, the harder your brain fights to reclaim the night. And here's what makes it particularly vicious. The tireder you are, the worse your impulse control becomes. And the worse your impulse control, the less able you are to override the psychological pull of staying up. The very exhaustion that should be sending you to sleep is simultaneously destroying your ability to choose sleep. You are not weak. You are caught in a feedback loop that was almost inevitable given the conditions. But there's one more layer to this, one that is less about your psychology and more about deliberate design. This is the part nobody wants to say directly. Your inability to sleep early is not just a biological and psychological problem. It is also, in part, a product design outcome. Every major platform you use at night, every streaming service, every social media app, every recommendation algorithm is optimized for a single metric above all others: time on platform. And the single biggest competitor to time on platform is sleep. Netflix famously stated in an investor letter that their biggest competition was sleep. That wasn't a joke, it was a product strategy disclosure, the autoplay feature that loads the next episode before the credits finish rolling, the infinite scroll that removes every natural stopping point, the notification that arrives just as you're about to put the phone down, the algorithm that has spent years learning exactly what content keeps your specific nervous system engaged for 5 more minutes. None of that is accidental. It is the output of billions of dollars of engineering talent pointed directly at the part of your brain that decides whether to stop or continue. And it works. Not because you're weak, but because the tools being used against your sleep are genuinely sophisticated and are being refined constantly based on what keeps you up most effectively. You are not failing at a simple task. You are losing a rigged game. So where does that leave you? Some of this you can change, and some of it you can't. Your chronotype is largely fixed. If you are a genuine night owl, no amount of discipline is going to make 10 p.m. feel natural to your biology. The most productive thing you can do is stop fighting the schedule and start negotiating with it, protecting your sleep window wherever it naturally falls, rather than forcing it into a shape that was designed for someone else's biology. The light problem is solvable. Blue light filtering, dimmer, warmer lighting in the evening, and actual darkness in the bedroom produce measurable improvements in melatonin onset for most people. It's not glamorous advice, but the research behind it is solid. The revenge bedtime procrastination is harder because it's a symptom of a larger problem. If your days feel like they belong to everyone else, no sleep tip fixes that. The sleep is just where the lack of autonomy shows up most visibly, and the platform problem requires a level of deliberate friction that most people underestimate. It's not about willpower in the moment. It's about removing access before the moment arrives. Because by the time you're tired and scrolling at midnight, the version of you that makes good decisions has already gone offline. Every cognitive function you care about, memory, creativity, emotional regulation, decision-making, physical health, is directly dependent on sleep quality. The hours you're stealing from your rest to scroll through content you won't remember tomorrow are being borrowed from every version of yourself that shows up tomorrow. You can't sleep early even if you tried. Now, you know why. The question is, what you're going to do with that information.